Hey guys, it's Greg with By the Bootstraps, btbootstraps.com. Another movie review for you. We went and saw Dragon Ball Z Broly, Dragon Ball Z, or Dragon Ball Super Broly, the movie that's out from Toei Animation. This is a spoiler review, so if you don't want to hear it, turn it off. If you do, great, wonderful. Wow, hey, man, if you're a fan of Dragon Ball, or Dragon Ball Z, or Dragon Ball Super, see this movie. This was one of the best movies that I've seen in a long time in theaters. The animation was fantastic. The story was pretty good. There's a couple iffy parts, and we'll talk about that in a second. But the animation is fantastic. It is superior to the show. It's probably one of the best animated movies that I've seen. I think the only one that probably compares to that is Your Name when it comes to like animation and art style. The dialogue between the characters is really good. There's not much of a script though once it starts getting into the fighting part. And that's kind of the downside of the movie, is that I wish there would have been more to it. But the movie starts off, you know, Broly is born along with Prince Vegeta. The king at the time is Vegeta's dad, named Vegeta. There's a lot of Vegetas on planet Vegeta. They end up going away, ends up exiling his son, and his father, Paradis, I think his name is, he ends up going to go find his son and then raise his son, right, and train his son. And he's got this vengeful, I want to get back at Vegeta for the King Vegeta. And in the process it shows how King Cole, which was the previous bad guy of the series, you know, and had his forces, is now being given to Frieza. Alright, so they bring Frieza back for this movie. And his character is a cool character, and it kind of really develops like some of like where his fear comes from. And it's not from the legendary Super Saiyan, you know, it's more of the fact that it's like, hey, we can't control these people, this race of people that we use, and that they might come back and strike at us because they're all pretty much a bunch of warriors, and so he wants to eliminate that so it's not an issue. Alright, and that's kind of the premise of the movie to begin with. So like the first hour of the movie is just basically them trying to find the Dragon Ball so that they can make these wishes. I'm not gonna lie, that part of the movie was pretty stupid. Just because of the fact that like their wishes that they want to do, at first, you know, Bulma, one of the good guys, is trying to find the Dragon Balls because she wants to look younger. And then they show Frieza wanting to find the Dragon Balls, and his whole purpose was he wants to be taller. It literally made no sense. I remember looking at my wife in the movie going, seriously, this is the best? Like, I was like, I hope they're just kidding with this and that there's more to it. Which you never find out what Frieza actually wants because he doesn't get to use the Dragon Balls. You know, that happens later on in the movie. So anyway, Broly comes out. They bring him back. His father has a vendetta against now Vegeta, you know, the character in Dragon Ball. And so Broly fights essentially Goku and Vegeta. And that's really what the last majority of the movie is. It's just basically one long battle sequence, which again, animation wise, it was fantastic. Fight choreograph, fantastic. Some of the best fighting scenes in an anime I've ever seen. The problem that I have with the movie though is that the Broly character is just, one, he's way too damn powerful, and two, he has not been trained, no skills involved or anything. He just adapts and learns. And so even though you have Goku and Vegeta, who are, in all retrospect, should be kicking the shit out of this character, Broly is just super powerful. Alright? Which I could buy, like, okay, he's just really powerful, and he's, you know, he's doing all this rage stuff, and he's just super mad, and, you know, he's tapped into this well of power, but that doesn't forgive the lack of skill, right? And it kind of nullifies a lot of what Goku and Vegeta have gone through in the entirety of the series, with the Super Saiyan transformation, with the Super Saiyan 2 transformation, with the Super Saiyan God transformation, and then the Super Saiyan Blue, which I don't even know what they call that stuff. I'm just saying, all those transformations, it basically says it doesn't mean anything, because now this one character is able to compensate and overpower all these guys and what they've learned. So even if you can get past like the power level, you know, differences, you know, which I could to a point, but then after a while, it just got to be like, this is getting ridiculous, you know, and like not in a good way. You know, yes, I was very ecstatic to see the fight scenes. Yes, I thought it was really good. And I definitely recommend seeing this movie. I mean, I really do, especially if you're a fan of Dragon Ball. But if you're not a fan of Dragon Ball, you probably are not going to get a lot out of this movie. It's just going to look like a bunch of fighting. But if you are a fan of Dragon Ball, you know, you might look at it one of two ways. You might say, okay, that was really cool to see, or you might look at it like, this is kind of crap and just how they presented it. You know, Broly, he doesn't say anything, essentially. He just screams a lot, you know. Whereas, like, I was explaining to my wife as we were leaving, because we're both fans of the series, and I was like, yeah, it would have been more interesting had they had, like, Vegeta, you know, and Goku, like, renewing their feud, like, not as, like, friends who are sparring, but actual, like, enemies, you know, because you would have had the back and forth with the dialogue, you would have had the back and forth with this progression of the story, there would have been actually, like, you know, some conversation in there that would have made it more interesting. You know, the problem with the Broly character is that all he does is scream. You know, he screams literally the last 30 minutes of the movie. Like, every scene he's in where his mouth is open, it's not in conversation, it's not in talking, it's just in screaming. And yet, he always gets to another level. Now, what was really funny in the movie is that Frieza deliberately kills Broly's father to make him turn into a Super Saiyan, and the entire sequence scene of that is hysterical. You know, he puts on this over the top acting, you know, thing like, "Oh my God, your father's been killed." I remember I was laughing so hard at that because it was just so over the top, but it was something that he would actually do. You know, I could see him doing, and it fit in line with his character. But then they do the fusion transformation to beat Broly. And again, that's another point of the problem of the movie is that, you know, they do this fusion. They've established in the previous lore that by doing that, they become more powerful. They become, like, super strong, super technique-wise. They have the best of both worlds and then even more power. So they should mop the floor with this guy, with this Broly character. But instead, it's almost like toe-to-toe the entire time, and it's like, okay, what does it take to actually kill this guy? And then he doesn't even die. At the end of the movie, they summon the dragon, you know, a side character, essentially, who, I don't know if it's just friendship or love or something, they don't quite explain it, but this side character basically wishes that Broly would go back to his world that he came from. So Broly doesn't even die, you know, and they just kind of leave it as a anticlimactic, like, oh, okay, well, that was kind of pointless. Now, what's cool is at the end of it, Goku goes to the planet that Broly's on, and he says, hey, I want to train with you, call me Kakarot, things like that. Like, so it adds more to the lore. They leave the story wide open for more additional stories. So in that retrospect, it's kind of cool. But it doesn't really give you, like, a satisfying conclusion to the movie. You know, it just kind of, like, abruptly ends in that wishing him away, and that's it. You know, and then Frieza, who started all this, you know, fighting stuff, he just gets to go away, which, you know, after the Tournament of Power and everything else, you would think, like, oh, okay, he's maybe turned a new leaf, he's maybe, you know, becoming a good guy or something like that, you know, because that kind of established that in Dragon Ball Super, but then he just goes. You know, now he's evil again. Okay. So I guess all the progression of that kind of got washed away. Again, it kind of fits in line with his character to a point, so you can see it, but at the same time, it's like, well, that didn't make a lot of sense. I don't know. Like I said, from an animation standpoint, it was fantastic. From the fight choreographic, it was fantastic. I mean, you actually see the hits that happen. It's really interesting. I think Broly as a character is pretty much one-sided, kind of frustrating, and quite frankly, I don't want to see more of him. I can certainly take this one movie and be like, okay, cool, let's just leave it at that. I hope they don't shoehorn him in, honestly, unless they really give him some character development and kind of like expand upon who he is. If I had to rate this movie, though, I'd say it's a solid B, you know, and a lot of that goes again to the animation, to the fights, you know, but as it comes to, like, you know, character development with Broly, at least, and especially since this is essentially his movie, they didn't do that. There wasn't enough there. They don't explain how he could be at the same level as Goku and Vegeta. They don't explain how he's able to do the things he does. I mean, I know they tried to, you know, as they're fighting, there's a line where Vegeta's like, he's learning as he fights, but it's like, no, you don't learn that quickly, that fast, to where, you know, you could just nullify 30 years of experience in a 30-minute fight. You know, it doesn't equate. Anyway, comment below, let me know what you guys think. If you saw the movie, by all means, I say go support it, watch it. I mean, hopefully we'll get more like this in the future. But comment below, let me know what you guys think, and I'll talk to you guys later.